As I stand in the quiet, suburban street of Willow Lane, a chill runs down my spine. The houses all have large front porches and ornate trimmings, but there's an eerie feeling that hangs in the air. I'm Emily, a writer who's moved to this street to escape a traumatic past. I've always felt drawn to the supernatural, and there's something about this place that makes me feel like there's more to it than meets the eye. But as I settle into my new home, strange things start to happen. I hear strange noises in the night, see shadows moving in the corners of my eyes, and feel like I'm being watched. At the same time, there's a string of murders happening in the area, and Detective James is struggling to find any leads. We both know there's something evil lurking in Willow Lane, and we must work together to uncover the truth before it's too late. As I wander through the twisted streets, I can't shake the feeling that something terrible is about to happen. The trees seem to contort into unnatural shapes, and the fog that always hangs over the street obscures my view. But I know I must push on, for the sake of myself and the rest of the community. Join me as I unravel the mysteries of Willow Lane, and come face to face with the darkness that threatens to consume us all. Join me on a journey into the unknown. Subscribe for spine-tingling stories, bone-chilling encounters, and terrifying tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Share with your friends, because fear loves company. Hit that like button to let me know you're ready for more. But beware, once you enter my world, there's no turning back. I stood at the front door of my new house on Willow Lane, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. The street was quiet, almost too quiet. It was lined with old oak trees, and their branches seemed to twist and contort into eerie shapes. The houses on the street were all unique, ornate with Victorian-style architecture, and large front porches. The street had an odd feeling, as if something was lurking in the shadows, watching my every move. I had moved to this neighborhood to escape my past, to start a new life away from the memories that had haunted me for years. As I walked through the door of my new home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. The house was small but cozy, with just enough space for me to write and be alone with my thoughts. As I started to unpack my boxes, I heard strange noises coming from the attic. It sounded like something was scratching at the walls. My heart raced as I tried to rationalize it, telling myself that it was just the old house settling. But deep down, I knew that there was something more sinister at play. As the days passed, I found myself unable to shake the unsettling feeling that hung in the air on Willow Lane. The old oak trees seemed to follow me everywhere, their branches stretching out as if trying to reach me. Even during the day, the street was shrouded in a thick fog, and it felt like I was walking through a dream. Despite my unease, I tried to settle into my new routine. I spent my days writing and exploring the neighborhood, hoping to find some solace in the quiet surroundings. But no matter where I went, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, waiting to pounce. One day, as I was walking down the street, I saw a man in a trench coat standing at the end of the block. He was staring at me intently, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread wash over me. I quickened my pace and turned the corner, hoping to get away from him. But as I walked down the next block, I realized that he was still following me. My heart raced as I tried to find a way out, but it felt like the street was closing in around me. Eventually, the man disappeared, and I breathed a sigh of relief. But the incident only added to my growing sense of unease. I knew that something was not right on Willow Lane, and I needed to find out what it was before it was too late. As the sun began to set on Willow Lane, I found myself deep in thought, staring out the window of my new home. I had just finished writing for the day, but I couldn't seem to shake the feeling of unease that had been growing inside me since I moved in. It was then that I saw a man walking down the street, looking around intently, as if searching for something. As I watched him, I realized that he was the same man in the trench coat that I had seen a few days earlier. My heart raced as I watched him walk up to my neighbor's house, knock on the door, and then quickly walk away. It was then that I realized that this man might have something to do with the strange occurrences on Willow Lane. I knew that I had to find out more about him, but I didn't want to do it alone. I reached out to the police department and was eventually connected to a seasoned detective named James. He was investigating a string of murders that had recently occurred on Willow Lane, and I knew that he would be able to help me get to the bottom of the strange occurrences on the street. The next day, James came to my house, and we began discussing the situation. He had been investigating the murders for weeks but had no leads. We shared our experiences with the strange occurrences on Willow Lane, and we both agreed that there was something sinister at play. It was then that we decided to team up and try to solve the case together. As we walked down Willow Lane, James and I could feel the tension in the air. The street was shrouded in a thick fog, and it felt like we were walking through a dream. The old oak trees twisted and contorted in the eerie mist, and we could barely see the houses that lined the street. As we walked, we noticed that the fog seemed to be getting thicker, and we could barely see a few feet in front of us. We continued on, feeling as if we were walking through a never-ending tunnel. It was then that we heard a strange noise, a rustling in the bushes. We stopped, looking around, trying to find the source of the sound, but as we looked, we realized that the bushes were moving on their own, as if something was hiding in the shadows. Suddenly, we heard a blood-curdling scream coming from a nearby house. We ran towards the sound, trying to find the source of the noise. As we approached the house, we realized that the fog was getting thicker, and it felt like we were walking through molasses. Finally, we arrived at the house, and we could see a figure moving inside. We rushed in, and what we saw was beyond anything we could have imagined. The walls were covered in blood, and there were strange symbols etched into the floor. It was then that we realized that there was something evil lurking on Willow Lane, something that we might not be able to stop. I looked around the attic and felt a shiver run down my spine. The room was filled with old furniture, broken lamps, and dusty boxes. The atmosphere was eerie, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The flashlight in my hand cast long shadows on the walls, adding to the creepy atmosphere. As we searched through the clutter, I noticed a strange symbol etched into the wood of an old chest. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before, and it sent a chill down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that this symbol was somehow connected to the evil presence that seemed to be haunting Willow Lane. Suddenly, James's voice broke through my thoughts. "Emily, look at this," he said, holding up a tattered old journal. "It looks like it belonged to the previous owner of this house." I walked over to him and peered over his shoulder as he flipped through the pages. The writing was hard to read, but it seemed to be filled with strange ramblings and nonsensical phrases. As we read on, however, a pattern started to emerge. The writer seemed to be obsessed with the same symbol we had seen on the chest. My heart started pounding in my chest as I realized what this could mean. Was the previous owner somehow connected to the evil presence in Willow Lane? And what was their connection to this strange symbol? We quickly made our way back down to the first floor, eager to find out what else we could learn about the previous owner of the house. As we descended the staircase, I couldn't help but feel like something was off. The air felt thicker, and the shadows seemed to be moving. Suddenly, we heard a loud crash coming from the kitchen. James and I looked at each other, and without saying a word, we both ran towards the sound. When we reached the kitchen, we found that one of the cabinets had been ripped off the wall and was lying on the ground, its contents scattered all over the floor. I felt a knot form in my stomach as I realized that something or someone had done this. We quickly searched the rest of the house, but we found nothing out of the ordinary. As we regrouped in the living room, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. James must have sensed my unease because he spoke up. "We need to find out what's going on here. I don't think we can leave until we figure out what's behind these murders." I nodded in agreement, my mind racing with possibilities. We had to find out who or what was behind the evil presence in Willow Lane before it was too late. But as we sat in the living room, surrounded by the eerie atmosphere of the house, I couldn't help but wonder if we were already too late. I stumbled out of the house, gasping for air as the weight of what had just happened settled on my chest. I couldn't believe that I had just seen James's dead body, his eyes staring blankly up at the sky. I stumbled backward, feeling dizzy and disoriented, and ended up falling onto the damp grass. The world around me seemed to blur as tears streamed down my face. My heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest, and I could barely catch my breath. I sat there for what felt like hours, lost in my own grief and despair, but eventually, something shifted. I heard a faint whisper on the wind, and my head snapped up. It was almost as if someone was calling out to me, beckoning me to follow them. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I had to follow it. I stood up slowly, my limbs feeling heavy and uncoordinated. I stumbled forward, trying to find my footing as I made my way down the street. The fog had grown thicker, almost suffocating in its density, and the trees seemed to loom over me like twisted, gnarled fingers. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears, the sound almost deafening in the silent street. I didn't know where I was going or what I was looking for, but I knew that I had to keep moving forward. Whatever was calling out to me was getting louder, almost urgent in its insistence. And then, I saw it. A shadowy figure, barely visible in the thick fog. It was standing at the end of the street, beckoning me forward with a ghostly hand. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest, but then I found myself taking a step forward. I moved slowly toward the figure, my heart pounding in my chest. I could feel its presence, almost like a tangible thing, and I knew that it was leading me somewhere. The figure turned and started moving down the street, and I followed, my eyes locked on its shadowy form. As we moved deeper into the fog, the world around me started to shift and twist. The houses on Willow Lane were still there, but they seemed to be crumbling and decaying before my very eyes. The trees twisted and contorted into grotesque shapes, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. I stumbled forward, trying to keep up with the figure as it led me deeper into the heart of the darkness. The fog was almost suffocating now, and I could barely see a few feet in front of me. And then, I heard it. "Hello," guttural growl, coming from somewhere in the darkness. It was almost like an animal, but it was too deep and too ominous to be anything of this world. The figure in front of me stopped, and I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest. But then it turned to me, and I could see the glint of its eyes in the darkness. They were a bright, glowing red, like coals in a fire. I wanted to turn and run, to escape from the darkness that was closing in around me, but I couldn't move. I was frozen in place, my eyes locked on the figure in front of me. And then, it spoke. Its voice was deep and gravelly, almost inhuman in its tone. "Welcome to the heart of the darkness," it said. "I've been waiting for you."